President Biden has had a busy day, not only announcing the death of the leader of ISIS, but also speaking at the prayer breakfast, which TYT has done quite a lot of good reporting on. Jonathan Larson has a number of write-ups about what the group behind the prayer breakfast has been up to over the past couple of decades. In any event, we want to give you a little bit of what Joe Biden chose to say at the National Prayer Breakfast, which is the sort of quote that just might make you lose your breakfast. Listen.
And Vice President Harris, Majority Leader Schumer, Mitch McConnell. Mitch, I don't want to hurt your reputation, but we really are friends. and that is not an epiphany we're having here at the moment. You've always done exactly what you've said. You're a man of your word, and you're a man of honor. Thank you for being my friend.
Is there like a code of like conduct for brunches where you're supposed to be like nice and even lie to do it? Like Sabrina, he was talking about Mitch McConnell and said he's friends with him, but more importantly, he's a man of his word. He always does what he says. What did you think?
I mean, yeah, I believe that. I think that there's a big part of Joe Biden's heart that has a soft spot for conservatives. So I'm not surprised to hear him call Mitch McConnell his friend.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that he wishes we still had what he's describing right there. And I think that we did have a bit more of that. You had politicians on the Democratic and the Republican side that could maintain friendships that would not be fractured by disagreements, even on like the most emotional issues. But can we acknowledge why that was? Why it was that they were able to still be friends and still go to dinners and still go to each other's weddings? Because those issues didn't really affect them. They didn't really care. A lot of them were just playing, and on the issues that did affect them, they didn't really disagree when it came to their tax rates, those sorts of things, business regulations. Like they got to be friends because these weren't core disagreements to them. These were things that they would cosplay occasionally. They would go to a convention, they'd pretend to care about this issue, and then they'd go back and have a delightful $1 million brunch or whatever. Now he's not going to acknowledge that. He makes it seem as if it's more like a folksy thing. Am I wrong? Am I the bad guy that I don't really care whether a Democratic and Republican senator grouping are friends or whatever, and in fact think that it might not be a good thing that they can be all chummy?
No, it's not a bad thing at all. Like it's like how Carlin said, it's a big club and you ain't in it, you know?
Yeah, it does feel like that. Let's give him a chance because this is President Joe Biden's shtick. But he says, I just think that when you learn that another man or woman, you fly on a congressional delegation and you learn that they have a kid with a problem like alcoholism, you learn that they have a daughter who has breast cancer, it's hard to dislike the person. And so one of the things I pray for, and I mean it, is we sort of get back to the place that we really know each other. Like I'm a lefty. I like the idea of some of that. I don't like these people being friends because they're friends against us, as Sabrina said. It's the friendship of an exclusive club that we're not members of and will never be members of. But more importantly, it just seems like such a willful misrepresentation of the circumstances under which things can happen in DC and they can't. It's not that things don't happen because you haven't bonded over your family enough. They're not. That gives so much needless respect to the supposed, the mythological thought process of an elected official in whether they'll support something or not. As if they're really thinking about it in those terms, rather than making either like sort of shallowly pragmatic calculations about the electoral consequences of doing or not doing something, or more likely, just asking their donors what they want and then providing that outcome. It's not like they receive millions of dollars from big oil, but then when it comes time to decide whether we should transition to clean energy, they're like, well, I did have that nice lunch 6 months ago. That I hate the way he's presenting this, because that if that was the way that it ever was, it certainly isn't that way anymore.
No, absolutely not. And even when, he says that it's hard to be mad at somebody who, their family is going through these types of struggles. And he can form friendships with these people. When regular working class people do reach out to him and they tell them about, their struggles, he doesn't seem to care that much to actually enact more tangible change that's actually going to help these people when it comes to, working things out and being civil with, colleagues across the aisle. He's totally fine with that. People who are already okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's definitely a selective willingness to really care about the struggles. Like if I don't know, if Josh Hawley's cousin is an alcoholic, that's an issue for Josh Hawley's cousin, his family, his friends. Hope that he gets the help if he wants it. Outside of that, what effect does it have on most people? Like, what about like some regular woman whose kid has $50,000 in student loan debt? Are you gonna shed tears over that? Are you gonna lose sleep over that? Can that influence the way that you do things? Because you seem to be willing to write off the suffering of tens of millions of people on a regular basis. I understand that they're not rich and well connected. I would argue their opinions and their life experiences still matter. And by the way, I want to just say one more thing, because the particular issue that he was talking about there was Mitch McConnell. And let's say that what Biden is doing is not, as I sort of suspect, a willful misrepresentation of virtually everything having to do with DC and our political structure. Then in that case, that is a really embarrassing thing that he said. That Mitch McConnell, of all people, is honest about what he'll do. He does what he says. We may disagree, but he's an honest man who sticks to the Supreme Court. Like, honestly, do I have to remind you of what happened with Merrick Garland and Amy Coney Barrett? The idea that he, of all politicians, is anything other than he's effectively a lich. He is an undead creature who is in pursuit of power, and he is willing to do and say anything to get it. That's all it is. He has said under multiple Democratic administrations, his only goal is to make sure that they lose. He's not your friend, Biden. He's not, or maybe he is behind the scenes, but politically, he definitely isn't your friend. And it is maddening that Joe Biden could either lie about it or honestly believe that Mitch McConnell wouldn't chuckle if Joe Biden walked away from the podium, fell down the stairs, and broke his neck. Like the fact that he could think that is so wildly insulting. I don't know exactly what form of insult it is, whether it's a lie or it's just pathetic, but we should all be insulted by what we just heard.
Absolutely. And the funny thing is, I guarantee we're going to continue to receive these fundraising emails from the DNC, from Democrats, all just absolutely demonizing Mitch McConnell, saying we have to stop Mitch, we have to stop the Republicans. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, it's just a grand old brunch.
Yeah, 100%. Is McConnell gonna like let there be up and down votes on pieces of legislation? McConnell, who just a week ago was saying those insane things about your pledge to put a black woman in the Supreme Court, and got super defensive when people asked if there was any diversity whatsoever in his staff. That guy, oh no, we just disagree honestly. He's a good guy though. Yeah, maybe for you, maybe for people of your class, he's a good guy. We have an issue with him though. Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.